but I'm curious about how things grow and lessons that I can learn from. Hi, how you doing? I learned a lesson this year about growing potatoes, and I thought I'd share that with you. My name is Sharon. I garden on a large yard in a small town in East Central Saskatchewan, Zone 3. Welcome to my Sask Garden. So here's just a little clip of me planting the potatoes in early May this year. And I'm probably also going to plant just a little tighter this year and see how that goes. And then I'm going to plant about, I think, 8 inches apart, and that's about, I'd say, two of my hands. This is a little tighter than I've done before. I'm also going to the next row, I'm going to stagger, so they will be planted in the middle of these two. Here is also a small clip of the video from my harvest from 2024, which occurred about early October of 2024. I'm really happy with this harvest. For a small raised bed, it's 4 feet by 12 feet. And now here is my harvest this year. So we dug the 2025 harvest, we dug them this morning, and definitely I have learned some lessons. If you recall, or from the clip I showed earlier, I planted a lot tighter this year for the potatoes, and I think I landed up with 31 individual plants. The year before, I had 18 individual plants. So I had hoped that I would get a bigger harvest out of them. I wasn't sure. I've never planted that tight. What I noticed this year when digging them up is the ones on the ends of the row where there was extra space in between the edge of the bed, or the end of the bed, and the beginning of the row. Those hills were bigger. I should say that the amount of potatoes and the size of the potatoes that came out of those particular plants, they were bigger. So they definitely do like the space. Overall, I have some stats here. For last year, I had dug a few hills during the year to eat the potatoes, but my October harvest was 12 hills. It averaged 1.5 kilos of potatoes per hill, or a total weight of 21 kilos for 12 plants that I harvested. I thought that was really good. I was really happy with that. And so this year, out of the 27 hills that were left, because again, I had dug a few as we were going through the year, out of that 27 hills, I only got 17 kilos of potatoes. And so that averaged out to 637 grams per plant. 637 grams of potatoes per plant that I harvested. And last year's was about 1.5 kilos per plant. Over twice as much. That's a big lesson for me. It is, knowing that, they definitely need that amount of space to grow and produce good. Last year's potatoes, I had a lot of bigger ones as well, and this year they're okay size. I'm going to say most of them, this one's got a poke, most of them are going to be probably about this size, some slightly bigger and some slightly smaller, but I would say that would be the average size, which is fine. I'm more than happy with that size of potato, and I'm not complaining about the harvest, because I did that intentionally to see. I did that tight spacing intentionally, and I mentioned it in a few videos after. I said, gee, I hope I didn't plant them too tight. They were a beautiful crop, like, growing, the amount of green and everything. They were gorgeous, and so I was expecting it to be, a very, very nice harvest. So to say I'm disappointed, maybe slightly, but at the same time, again, lesson learned for me. Just a few other things that, my beds run east and west. And so I had a row, what I call the south row. It was planted on the south row of that east-west bed. And that had 9 hills, or 9 plants left in it for me to harvest. And That row in particular had 844 gram average per plant. It was, like 300 grams more per hill than the other two rows. The middle row was also not bad. It was 545 grams of potatoes per hill. I would have hoped for about a kilo, honestly, for all of the hills, but that didn't happen. The south row would have come closest. I don't know why that is, that the south row, whether it was warmer, because it would have gotten the sun. I'm sure the soil would have been slightly warmer on that south side, just because it was getting the warmth from the wood portion of the raised bed. I don't know. That's about the only thing I can think of. The north row was the poorest row, and that had 7 hills left in it and came out to 514 grams per plant or per hill. You could hypothesize there and say that was the coolest row. Maybe I didn't take the temperature, but that's interesting that it would be, 300 grams, more than 300 grams difference between the north and south rows. The only other difference from the north row to the other two rows was that the north row was planted with the dig and like with digging a hole and putting a potato in and then covering with soil from the next hole that I dug. And the south and middle rows were done with the trench method. I don't know if that makes a difference. This is my first year trying a trench method. Otherwise, everything else was the same. I grew the same variety of potato, which was Carib. I grew, all the rows were Carib, and I grew that same variety in 2024 because I do like that variety. So I do tend to stick with it, and I'm not necessarily looking for massive harvests because we don't have a cold room, so we only, potatoes will only stay for us in basement temperature for so long anyway. So, that part, it's not like I'm trying to grow a massive harvest, but I'm curious about how things grow and lessons that I can learn from all of that. And so, does the trench method work better? I'm not sure. Perhaps next year I'll go back to a larger spacing, less potatoes, and perhaps I will do them all with the trench method and just see how that goes. So my potatoes are going to stay on this cart in the shade for a couple days. I noticed that their skins weren't particularly thick, so I'm hoping that staying outside and drying off for a couple days might help to kind of cure them a little before I take them into the house. But they'll stay out here for a while before I clean them off better, taking off the rest of the dirt that's on there. That's another thing. It was really wet today, really wet for digging today, which was one of the reasons I wanted to get it done, because we're actually expecting that there might be more rain coming. And so today is a nice dry day. We haven't had a lot of particularly dry weather. It's been humid and it's been really, really foggy in the morning. That sometimes doesn't burn off until lunchtime. So, and then it, starts to cool off again pretty quick in the evening. So with more rain expected and having some nice dry weather for getting this done, I thought I'd take the opportunity and get those dug. And, I think it's time anyway. My plants, the actual green part of the plants or even the dying down of the plants, they were done long ago because this is actually an early variety of potato. So although they would have been probably fine staying there for another couple weeks, I just thought I'd, seize the day, so to speak. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on my potato growing little experiment that I did for this past year. And, if you're thinking about maybe going to a tight spacing next year, don't bother. It's really not beneficial whatsoever. Thanks very much for joining me today and hearing about the results of my experiment. I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, tell your friends, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. See you.